Hit record so we can be recording. Okay, great. Okay, so I have us on double screen. I think it's going to record my screen here. Perfect. Hi, Sarah.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's raining here. Is it raining by you?
Oh, no, actually it's not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we got a break right now.
Okay, where are you tuning in from?
I am in Brookfield, Wisconsin, which is just outside Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's so crazy. It has been really doom and gloom here today, and I'm in Wausau, so it's not that far. It's a couple hours away from you, but it's very, very rainy today. But whatever, that's cool. I'm glad you got nice weather.
For the moment.
For the moment, that's all good. I love it. Well, thank you for joining us. I'm just going to give a little proper introduction of you so everyone knows who we're talking to, and then we'll dive right in.
Sounds good.
Perfect. All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, hello. This is Shara. This is Sarah Schwab. She's a content marketer, speaker, mother, and dancer in no particular order. In every role, she seeks to inspire others to express themselves creatively and authentically. She founded a business called Content Creation Coach and wrote the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Content That Dances. After a 10-year break, Sarah is thrilled to have reconnected with her passion for dance. You'll often find her at local studio and at a regional ballroom dance competitions. With her husband, Sarah is the proud parent of 3 children who love life and one another, which I love that you say that. That's so cute. That's awesome. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm thrilled to have you bringing some nuggets to everyone that's watching, as well as sharing your story around a significant time when fear held you back from living your life fully. And again, just welcome and super, super excited to have you. Thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I love your topic and what you do here. So I can't wait to be part of it.
Thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. Okay, so let's just dive right in. So why don't you tell us something relatable about you or interesting? Tell us some kind of fun facts that you want to just share with the viewers about you.
Oh my gosh. Well, in another life where you mentioned about dance and business and all this parts of my life, one thing about me is my first career was actually in international education. I studied abroad in Africa when I was in college.
Wow.
And since then, we lived in Switzerland for a year. That was back in 2012. And we've hosted people to come live with us. And we actually just a couple of weeks ago picked up a foreign exchange student from Poland.
Yeah.
Living with us this year for the school year. So that's part of my adventure right now as well.
That is so cool. I love that you yourself went abroad, you've lived somewhere else, you've experienced other things like that. And then you're also giving back to someone else to be able to come and do the vice versa here. So that's really cool. Now you have 2 children or 3 children. Sorry, you have 3 children. What are their ages in comparison to the exchange student that you have right now?
Sure. So my daughter is the oldest. She's 15, and the exchange student is also 15. So they're both at the same school. They're sophomores at the high school here.
Oh, fun.
So they're the oldest. And then I have a son who is 13, and my youngest is 10.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you're dealing with preteen and then teenagers.
Exactly. I'm in it. I'm definitely there.
That is so cool.
Add another teenage boy to the house, because why not?
Okay, so your exchange student is a boy. Okay, cool. Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I'm sure it comes with a lot. So, when you have an exchange student, they're there for the whole school year, or is it part of the year? Did you say?
I think it depends on the program and what you sign up for.
Oh, okay.
We volunteered for the full academic year.
This is cool. Is this the first time you're hosting an exchange student?
It's the first time we're hosting a student at that age level. We have hosted, they were called Amity interns. They were kind of like student teachers. We've hosted 2 of those before, and so they were in their maybe early 20s. And then similarly, we also had 2 au pairs along the way when my kids were younger. And so they were also a little bit older, kind of around the 20-ish age frame.
Yeah.
So the first time taking on really another child. He feels like a host child,
Right.
So that's kind of
part of your family, right? He
Yes,
just
for
comes
sure.
in and becomes part of your family, and that's so cool. I love that. That's awesome. Those are fun facts about you for sure. That's cool. Well, okay, so let's dive in about fear and tell us about a significant time in your life when fear held you back from living your life fully.
That is such a good question. I've been thinking about it ever since I signed up for this. Um, I would say for me, fear is kind of a constant chitter chattery thing.
Yeah.
And so to pick one time when it was like super primary, it's not really how it works for me. It is just this constant, voice on my shoulder whenever I want to do anything. So I
Okay.
kind of want to address my dance journey
Yeah.
because for me, dance was a huge part of my life all the way up through college. I was taking dance classes. I thought I might major in it or try to make something of it. And I decided early on that I just didn't want it to be my career. That's not the lifestyle I wanted, but I would always find a way to have it in my life. And then, even when I graduated from college, I was dancing in Chicago some. My husband and I got married, moved to Milwaukee, and I found a dance company who let me take class with them. And I just was committed to that until life, right? I had actually my first child and they still let me. I remember being in dance classes where my little 6-month-old was laying in the middle of the floor in the circle and we were all like stretching around her and like I was
Oh, fun.
still there. And then I got pregnant with my second. My husband was in medical training residency, which was craziness. And I had these 2 little kids and I was, had a job at the time and was being the financial provider for our family. And I just couldn't do it. I couldn't fit it in anymore. And it fell by the wayside. And, 10 years went by.
Yeah.
And
Just like that, I'm sure.
like that. And, it was life. And no, I don't want to, make it sound bad or anything, but I lost a piece of myself.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it happens and we don't even realize it. And for me, it was a fortuitous kind of thing because about 3.5 years ago, my husband and I were at a fundraiser event and I won the raffle, right? I never win anything like that, but I bought some raffle tickets and I won the raffle and the prize was for dance lessons at this ballroom studio. Now, ballroom is not the kind of dance that I had grown up doing. It was a whole different ball game. I knew Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, let's give this a shot. But I will tell you, well, the truth of the matter is when I walked into that studio, it felt amazing. It felt like I was home, like this piece of myself was reconnecting. But I think whenever we open ourselves up to that, to a part of us that's so like who we are and so vulnerable and so authentic and so whatever. And I thought people would think, well, you're 40 years old, you shouldn't be dancing. What are you doing? You're not, you're not professional at it. You're not whatever. And so I came up against a whole bunch of that kind of what I would call that fear, that kind of resistance around following that passion.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So would you say that it's like just the fear of what would you call your fear? Is it fear of like what other people were thinking about you? Is it fear that you weren't good enough? Like what is your fear with that?
It's a really good question. It feels to me like fear of getting hurt because, and I don't mean physically hurt, but I mean like fear of opening yourself up.
Yeah.
Such a, real vulnerable kind of way that if someone then, so maybe it's a little bit of fear of criticism or fear of whatever, but what that is it's a fear of putting yourself out there and of feeling hurt, of feeling like this is really who I am. And what if it's not enough? What if it's not good enough? What if people don't like it? I don't know. Is that making sense?
Yeah. Yeah. It's all of those things. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome.
But
So
before you ask another question, I have to
yeah.
say that's not what happened. Like the fear is still there every time I put something out or share my
Yeah.
journey. And here's a piece of, as a content creation coach, and you're, out there sharing. And I think that's so important. One thing, it's a quote from Michael Hyatt. I don't know. Do you know Michael Hyatt?
I don't.
And he said, there's two parts of being brave. One is to do the thing, right? Do whatever that thing is that scares you. Sorry. And the second part of it is, though, to share it. And if it's easy, what he says is, if it's easy to share it, then you've never really created anything that truly matters to you. So that sharing it, putting yourself out there, showing it to other people, that's the part. It's freaking scary.
It's vulnerable.
It's very vulnerable. But what happened in my case is people love it. I put my dance stuff out there, and people, that's the thing that gets the most reactions from people, because they can tell, they can see that I'm out there doing this thing that I love. I think everybody wants that for themselves. And so when I share it, they really, for the most part, have been extremely supportive and inspired and all of those kinds of things.
Absolutely. Well, and that goes to show too, like, honestly, I think people love to support people going after those big, scary dreams, goals, whatever you want to call them, aspirations. But it's a lot of it's because people are too afraid that they want to do it too, and they're not stepping out into those big, scary things, but they'll cheer you on, which is great.
They'll live vicariously, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. They will watch your story about what you're doing. But that's to go to show, like, they think that they can't do it themselves a lot of the time, I think.
Yes.
So it's good, and it's really inspiring because you are showing people that they can do it, especially at 40 or whatever age it is. It doesn't matter, that you're following what brings you joy and really makes you happy in your life, which is awesome and very inspirational. So, I mean, kudos to you for getting through that fear and just being like, okay, I'm going to do it. It brings me happiness. I'm reconnecting to a piece of me that I let go for a different time in my life to raise my family. And you did that. And now it's time to get back to you and what you're all about and your dancing. So how many years has it been now that you've been back in dance?
I've been back dancing now for 3 years.
Okay.
And actually I have a show coming up on September 20th. So like I'm definitely in it. And even that, like right now, right, I'm working toward this show, and there's still fear that comes up around getting out there in front of everybody and doing this. So, but I also like, you've probably heard this before, I'm sure, reframing that kind of fear it's exciting. It's a stretching of my comfort zone. Like I don't like to see it as negative. I like to see it as a positive thing. It means I'm stretching myself and putting myself out there. Like, there have been people who say, if you're not scared, at least whatever it is, once a day or multiple times a week or whatever, then you're not pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And that's part of what it is.
Absolutely. Well, that's true. And I always talk about how, the fact that it's called Live Fearlessly Vlog is not that we don't have fears. It's about the fact that we do have these fears every single day, whether it's little or big or whatever it is for you. We all have them. It's just how we move through them and choose to see them as, is it a toxic fear or is it a beneficial fear, and how you move through them.
Yes.
So really assessing those things and moving through the fear. So I love that. Absolutely. You have to feel the fear to know that you're growing, and moving through them is just getting you intentionally growing to where you probably need to be.
Yes.
The scarier it is, the better it's going to feel when you conquer it.
Yes. It's part of it. It's just part of getting where you want to go, because where you want to go is somewhere different than where you are right now. And by definition, you're going to have to change or grow or hit some hurdles or whatever that all is. So it's part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Okay. So when fear was holding you back for that period of time, where were you mentally, and how did you feel about yourself during that time?
That's a really good question. I personally ended up diving into the thing that I loved because I loved it and I couldn't believe like it came back around. But I kind of disconnected from a lot of things that summer. I remember my summer of dance. It was a June 1st when I stepped into that studio, and like my business went on hold and my other stuff. I was like, I'm doing this thing, but it was that place where I didn't want to share it yet. I wasn't ready to share it yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me, that was a time frame where I just needed to first do it. It's the beginning of that Michael Hyatt quote. Like first I just needed to do it and embrace it and own it and be in it and get myself to a place where then I could share it with other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And there's nothing wrong with doing something, especially for just yourself, and feeling like you're going to keep that to yourself. You were protecting it, honestly. Like you were protecting something that meant so much to you. It really brings you your joy. It lights you up. And to put it out there right away to people, that could be devastating if you're not careful about how you present it to people, or the people that you do show that side of your vulnerability to. It could crush that dream and that excitement for you. So good for you that you didn't do it necessarily, because who knows what could have happened. So how long would you say that progression was that you were, picked it back up to like start sharing it more?
That's a really good question. I almost want to go back and look at my social media posts from back then, because it's like, I would say probably about 3 months. I feel like it was the summer.
Okay.
And then in the fall, I came back out to the world. Went back to my business, went back to all those things and said, hey guys, this is what I've been doing.
This is where I've been. That's awesome. I love it. That's cool. I think that's a great idea. So, okay. So when you were breaking free from the fear and you were going through that at that time, and we all have things that adjust in our life and they kind of affect relationships some way, friendships or relationships. How did relationships, if at all, how did relationships or friendships move during the time of, bringing dance back in your life? Because 10 years away and then coming back, like talk about relationships around the dance stuff.
Interesting. For me, I was surprised again, like all the people, my current relationships and friendships were surprisingly supportive about it, which is awesome. Yeah. And yet they don't get it. Like they're not in it with me. They don't love it the way that I love it. So what ended up happening was, they ask about it and they think it's great and they like seeing it. But I added a whole community of people from my new studio and from the dance world who are sort of that tribe. They're like my dance tribe. And so I think having relationships with people who are doing what you are doing or doing what you want to be doing, to be able to inspire each other and talk about it and all of the share it together. I think you can share with those folks in a different way. That is really key, is creating a community of people around you who do what you want to do, who do what you love as well.
Yeah, it's that like-mindedness, and they fill your cup because you don't have to justify it, you don't have to explain it more. You just really get it. You have a connection that is mutually there. Like it's just something that's there. You can just hang out and know that you have that connection that is something really, really personal and deep to you, like your love for dance. So I think that's awesome that you have that community of supporters that they have the same passion and love for it as you do. That's great. How many people are at your the studio that you go to?
Oh my gosh. Lots of students. I would say there's a core group of regulars and friends that have become part of my community that probably is 15 people at least. So that's awesome.
Very cool. And that's in Milwaukee, you said?
My studio's in Brookfield, but
Brookfield. Okay. Awesome. I love that. So really what did compel you to jump ship from having the fear of like coming back out to people saying like, hey, this is back in my life. I'm really excited about it. Like what got you to get over that?
Well, I told you this one was fate. I swear to God, it was I won this raffle, and that's
that raffle. That was it.
I think that's a really good question. I want to share another part of this journey with you, which is last spring, finally, I started my own podcast, which is about this. I wanted to share my dance journey. I wanted to inspire people to tap into their own creative passions. If they have one, if they had one when they were growing up, or maybe they don't even know what it is.
Right.
And so I talked to other people who've done similar things, who have a passion for singing, or who have a passion for some sort of artistic expression or writing or whatever that might be. And, that the whole putting yourself out there and sharing your creations and your I don't know, your creative inspiration with the world is scary. And so I talk about that on my podcast. I talked about starting that podcast for like 3 years. It didn't happen, and it didn't happen, and it didn't happen. So I'm thinking about your question of like, what was it that caused me to finally get over it and just be like, that's it, I'm doing it. And I think it's a combination of things, but sometimes you've got to just give yourself a deadline.
Yeah, that's true.
Put something on the calendar, have an accountability buddy or something. I swear to God, I created a podcast advisory committee like a year into it, and we had a bunch of meetings, still didn't really happen. I actually blew past a couple of deadlines where I said I was going to start it and didn't. And so it's a tricky question. It really comes down to commitment.
Yeah, it's like pressure is what I was thinking. Like the pressure of like that deadline and the accountability people, like other people relying that you are following through with what you said you wanted to do, right?
Right.
And having that pressure of making sure that you're following through with it. But yeah, that's
I don't want to spin it in a negative way, because the truth of the matter is, for stuff like this, if it's your dream, it's got to come from you. You can't, nobody else can sort of force that to happen.
Right.
And so, I wish I had a better answer, but here's what I will tell you is, in those 3 years, I kept taking baby steps.
Okay.
Like, even though maybe the podcast didn't launch instantly, sometimes these things do have like an incubation period, or you need to do some planning, or you need to do some research, or you need to have some conversations and, have my committee. And then I built a program called Passionate Podcasters. And I talked to a bunch of people who did podcasting, and I think I needed that, but I was still taking steps. And so maybe my advice is, figure out what the next baby step is that you can take, so that if the thing that you want to do feels big, break it down and take steps toward it. Because if you're just not moving and there's no momentum toward it, then it's it's more likely to just kind of sit there and never happen, because our life gets away from us. But if you're at least taking baby steps and keeping some momentum going around it, then this is going to get a little bit woo woo, but I feel like you're sending a message to the universe, and the universe is going to help you, get closer and bring things to you and help make that all come together.
Yeah. I love that advice, breaking it down and just really assessing like the littler pieces of it, because that's so true. We're good at thinking about the bigger pictures a lot of the time, but it's the day-to-day things, the day-to-day tasks that we like let go. Like today, for instance, my son is actually sick, and I was like, okay, what am I doing today? And focusing on that. But things out of our control happen that we need to stay focused on the things that matter and put things to the wayside that, aren't urgent, that need to be done right away. And I think that's a great tip to give people is, the breaking it down and really moving step by step in baby steps. I like that you said that it is small little incremental things. And then they just start to stack up, and eventually you get there. It just depends on how fast you want to go and all of that stuff too. So I love that. What other advice would you give?
One more thing that came to mind around that, which is sometimes that baby step is just tell somebody. Have
Oh,
you
yeah.
told anybody else what you want to do? You know,
This
and for
is,
me to say it out loud and say, I have this vision for this podcast, and I really, you know, this is part of my why. It's how I want to get my message out there. And I would have conversations with people about it. It can be that simple. Like,
yeah.
what is the thing you want to do, and who can you tell about it? Because I think when we speak it, when we have conversations with other people, it starts opening doors. You know, if it's just inside your head, there's only so much momentum that you can get going. But if it's out there, if you're talking about it, if you're sharing it just with a close friend or a family member or whoever, then I feel like, you know, again, that things can start falling into place. Things can
Yeah, it
start.
builds that energy up and the momentum to do it. I love that you say that because so I have a virtual workspace for women to actually do that. We hold work hours via Zoom, and we come in and say what our intentions are for the day for what we're working on to do those day-to-day tasks and have the community feel so that you're not alone in that, and knowing that we're celebrating you when you get it done, and we're holding you accountable because you literally have to show up and say what you're working on. And it's worked so well with our members that they love it because they are being intentional with their growth and not letting it just go to the wayside if they don't feel like doing it. But if they say they're going to do it, then they show up and they do it, and then we hold them accountable to it. So I love that you brought that up. That's great. That's great advice. Just tell someone. It holds you accountable for what you say that you want.
It does.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I love that. So what you were talking about advice around fear too, with like the baby steps. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on for advice around overcoming fear or moving through it?
I think a big piece of it is that shift in perspective. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think we put pressure on ourselves, you know, about positive feelings. Like I don't want to feel bad. I don't want to feel, you know, down. I don't want to feel scared. I don't want to feel this. I don't want to feel anxious, whatever. Like it has this negative thing over it in our society, and we beat ourselves up about it, and then it makes it worse.
Yeah.
And part of, I talk about this with my daughter, I'm a super emotional person, and that means both, you know, I feel positive emotions really, really strongly, but I also feel negative emotions really strongly sometimes too. And that's okay to say, I
Yeah.
know this is all just part of the spectrum of emotions of being a human being. It's, in a way, it's part of living this human existence fully. It
Oh
isn't,
yeah.
it doesn't mean you're not going to be bouncing off the clouds, you know, 24/7. It just is not the reality, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay to feel scared, and it's actually, it all is part of the journey. So don't, not
Yeah.
to judge yourself. Let go of that piece of it.
That's true. And what you said about we think about what we don't want. We don't want to do this. We don't want to think this. And I love to challenge people to think about who you say you are, how you show up, and the way that you want to show up by saying like, you said I am a super emotional person. And I was going to say like, is that a positive or a negative? Because people look at it in different ways. I
Yes.
used to think that I also am very sensitive and emotional person. If I see someone cry, I will cry. But I used to think that that was a negative. I used to think that was a bad thing because I was like, man, I can't hold it together to watch someone else cry. Like, that's crazy. But really, it's showing that human connection, right? Like, we have empathy for people. We have compassion for a reason. We wouldn't have compassion without the bad stuff happening. Like, they all go together. So, but thinking about what we do want, how we do want to show up, I think is really the important thing. And I do affirmations with my kids before they go to school, specifically for that reason, to make sure they have a positive mindset about who they are before they even step into a place where other people are probably telling them other things that I don't even know, right? So I think that's great advice, and really shifting that thought about like who you want to be, who you want to show up as, and moving through it more like that. But okay, so my last question would be, now that you know how to move through your fears more easily, And like you said, it's there every day. So you're working through it every day, whether you're conscious of it or not. But where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? So 5 years from today, where do you see yourself now that you know how to live more fearlessly?
Oh my gosh. And I wish there's stuff I'm all about sharing, but there's stuff going on in my life right now that I totally can't even share yet. But like,
well, 5 years from now. So thinking about what you're doing that you can't even talk about now, like even past that, now, where do you see yourself?
right. So for me, I've known for a while that Milwaukee is maybe not my forever place. And I think sometimes people get stuck geographically.
Yeah.
And so, I'm thinking about where, if I could live anywhere, where would I want to live? And so I actually think I will probably be somewhere else, geographically speaking. One of my goals dance-wise is to go to an event called the United States Dance Championships. It just happened actually last week. And I knew some folks who were down there. And so that will, I was going to say hopefully happen, but that will happen sometime in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
What else? How am I stretching myself?
I mean, you'll have a 20-year-old, you'll have
Right.
like thinking about the ages of like the progression of your family, like everything that surrounds you. Like it is so interesting to think about 5 years from now, where you will be with your loved ones, with your business, with your passions and your hobbies and everything that you're doing. I'm a dreamer. I love to think about that and manifest what I really want. So I love asking people this question to really get them to think further, like keep going, like what is that? Because it can happen a lot faster than we think, which is the freaking awesome part.
Yes, totally. And it's funny because I'm not good. Picturing distant visions of how things are going to be is not how I normally operate.
Yeah.
But I am really good. What I would say is I'm really good at following my fear, at following my discomfort, at following the next inspiration and saying, that's where I want to go. And so I know, and then it just keeps going. And I feel like I'm open. When you're willing to walk through the fear, you're not scared of the fear, you know how to do this, you are so much more open to possibilities and potential. Yeah. There's so many opportunities out there that I don't like to say necessarily it's going to be this or this or this, but I know it's going to be awesome because who knows, opportunities and possibilities could be out there that haven't even entered my space yet. That's how I look at it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Every day there's new technologies and new businesses and new things that are coming out left and right. Like always. I mean, the possibilities are just endless always, which is awesome.
Yes.
So I love that.
The conversations you're having, getting people into a space where they can take advantage of those, that's where the real magic happens.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love it. And I just always like to mention too, like this is something that is a fear of mine, speaking in front of people and like having conversations where other people can judge it. Cause I'm a very honest, blunt, forward person. And that used to be a huge fear of mine. And so when I started this and when I had this thought brought to me to start this, I was like, no way, nope, not happening. And then I think it took me about 1 or 2 months to be like, okay, I'll give it a shot. And it just exploded since then. So it is taking those little steps and just starting and putting it out there and you grow from each time each baby step, you grow from that. So
that's right. And I want to applaud you because I'm in the same way, but I think you really model what you talk about. Like you you live it. You are, you're doing these things and it doesn't mean you're not scared. You're going through the same thing everybody else is going through. And I try to do the same thing. And in that, I was going to throw out a challenge that might be a little scary for both of us potentially, which is I was going to see if I could play a video of a dance of mine.
Oh my gosh, go for it.
Possible if I share my screen. I don't know if this will work.
Do it.
So this was a piece that I did when I launched my podcast, and it's from the movie.
What is your podcast?
It's called Inspired and Amused. Check it out, inspiredandamused.com.
Yes. Good.
But the song from La La Land talks about being a creative person, being one of those, crazy people who are important for the world because we are, the movers and the shakers, the ones who
We are the
follow.
visionaries, like the people that are following, like you said follow the fear. And I love that. That's probably going to be the title of this, just so we're clear. I always pull out like little nuggets and just make that part of it. So following the fear, I love that, because when I go speak and do topics, mine's always about fear because people are so caught up in it. So I love this conversation. I love that you're like, I just want to show this. So go ahead. If you can share your screen, bring it out. Like, let's do it.
We're going to give it a shot. I'm going to turn
Here we
this
go.
up.
Yeah, we're in.
All right, here we go.
Her solo routine that she's been working on with Mr. Work. I remember she told us that she jumped into the river once. She smiled. And without looking, and the water was freezing.
Choppy for you.
She spent a month sneezing. It said she would do it again. Here's to once who dream, foolish as they seem. Here's to the hearts that
Sorry, is it choppy for you? I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
So, but that was the message of it. I don't know if you heard that, but it's, here's to the mess that we make. Here's to the, the mistakes and to the craziness, because that's what it's all about, is just putting ourselves out there.
I love it. Your dress reminds me of Frozen. Like the shiny dip in it. Like, I love it. That's awesome. So where can everyone connect with you?
Yes. So I'm on Facebook. You can do Content Creation Coach or Inspired and Amused. I'm also at contentcreationcoach.com or inspiredandamused.com. So either way, come find me. I would love to hear from folks.
Perfect. I love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. That was great. I'm glad you thought to like share a snippet of what your dancing looks like. So now, anyway, it was choppy, but so go connect with Sarah and actually be able to see stuff.
The Inspired and Amused Facebook page. So
there you go. We'll just have them go there and actually watch it. Perfect. That's perfect. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us about fear and how you move through it, and all these little nuggets. I love it. This was so fun. I thank you so much for your time.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Everyone that's watching, remember to love yourself and live fearlessly. Thank you. Have a great day.